continuing into lesson two, the Reformation. You're going to notice that what is most known religion is going to be now challenged. So, getting into it again, you're going to look how cultural is going to be advanced. And here's the word we're going to look at: belief systems and ideologies. Talking about what people just kind of assumed and just trusted in faith, going to be questioned. So, at the end of this, make sure you can realize how the Reformation advanced culture. So, getting right into it, what is the Reformation? It's a religious movement that started in the 16th century, so the 1500s, and it's going to be challenging the Christian faith. So, we talked about it way back in Unit 2, where we talked about Jesus and how he lived his life, and then that started Christianity. Well, through the course of time, people are going to get corrupt in the church, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But you're going to notice that popes and kings during this time, they're not getting along, and they're actually going to kind of butt heads publicly, and then some drastic measures are going to be taken. But again, during the time, you're going to notice that certain people are going to be get displeased with how the church is doing things, and they're upset with how the financial corruptions are kind of working their way into the church, which is supposed to be a sacred place and do the right thing all the time. You're also going to see abuses of power. You're going to see people are going to take advantage of the uneducated, and then people just acting immorally in the church. And I'm going to talk about that as well. But when you get into what was happening corruption wise, is that the church was basically taking advantage of people not being able to read in more ways than one. And how are they doing it? First and foremost, like the biggest thing with the Reformation is the selling of these things called indulgences. And it's basically a piece of paper that says you're buying your forgiveness of your sins. Where before people were feeling made to feel guilty about committing these sins and then basically had to confess and yada yada yada. You're going to notice that people just still weren't fully forgiven or didn't feel fully forgiven. But why was the church doing this? They wanted to build this St. Peter's Basilica. And this is in the Vatican. And this is still where the Rome, or the sorry, where the Pope does this thing every Sunday. And it's actually a pretty powerful place, I would imagine, but I've never been there. Bucket list. But why does this matter to us? Is that this lie, this indulgence, which isn't really a thing, is again part of the problem. Then, how else were they taking advantage? Well, all the Bibles during the time were printed in Latin, and only people that spoke Latin were people in the church. So, when people would ask, what does the Bible say? The preachers, the monks, the whichevers that were affiliated with the church are lying to the people what says it to take advantage of them. So, again, this is a big deal because this is both an immoral act and you're basically admitting to people, or you're leading people down the wrong way. So again, this is a big deal that's going to lead up to the why people are going to want to clean it up. And then you're also going to notice that kings and popes, they had a power struggle, because what popes did is that they collected taxes for the church. Well, on the flip side, kings also collect taxes for their own kingdom to fund feudalism, which is something we talked about. And people are saying, you can't tax a king. I'm the most important person here. One of the popes would come back with, you can't tax God, you can't charge us money. So this was kind of a power struggle, I guess you would say. And there's going to be one person that's going to take advantage of this and kind of break away here in the future. But more to get that when we get there. So going into the first question, what was the name of the type of document being sold by the Catholic Church to buy forgiveness? So going into the early reformers, you're going to notice it's going to start in the early 1300s. So right around the same time as the Renaissance, building off of lesson one. And the first guy that's going to come to mind is this guy named John Wycliffe. He's going to say that the Bible should be the center of people's faith, and that should be the first religious authority. So he translated the Bible from Latin to English. Well, church didn't like this, and they actually convicted him of being a heretic going against the teachings of the church, and he's going to be burned at the stake, which is unfortunate. Then you get into person number two shortly thereafter. It's going to be a guy named Jan Hus. And again, kind of doing the same thing. He's saying people should act like Jesus Christ did, and then everything should work out. But again, people didn't like this, and they burned him at the stake as well. And he actually called his shot. He basically predicted Martin Luther was going to happen 100 years before Martin Luther actually happened. So, who Martin Luther is, I'll talk about here in a couple of slides. But he said, in 100 years, so 1515, somebody will come forth and challenge the church. And in 1512, Martin Luther did what he did. And then Erasmus. So I don't know what his first name is. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he said the church doesn't need to fix anything. They just need to do what's expected of them. So return to Christian goodness is the term that he used. And he really had the right idea. He just didn't get his word out there. Reason being, he just didn't have the technology to help him. And that's where the last guy, Martin Luther, is going to come in. But first, the early attempt to reform the church was to translate the Bible from Latin to English. True or false? So again, Martin Luther, hands down the most famous face of the Reformation. He was a German monk, and he is going to be basically public enemy number one of the Catholic faith. He is going to come out and he is going to write 95 reasons why, or theses of why the indulgences were crap. And he is going to hang his hat on. He's going to shout it from everywhere people can hear him, that a Christian gets to heaven because of their faith, not by their works. Catholics at this time, during the time, or Christians during this time, thought good works got you into heaven. So he's going directly against it, and he let everybody know it. And his message actually got so popular that a lot of people started, like, basically following him because, hey, I don't have to pay taxes to the Pope anymore, because in the Protestant faith, his new faith, there is no Pope. So, where the technology is going to help him is the printing press. He's going to write and he's going to print and he's going to distribute it all over Europe, especially in Germany. And that's where his major ideas are going to start passing around. And that's when the Pope is going to get super pissed. And he's going to say, "Sorry, Martin Luther, you can't do this. You're excommunicated from the church. You're kicked out." And he actually put a bounty on Martin Luther's head. So Martin Luther went into hiding and basically kept writing and kept working. So after Martin Luther basically gained a whole lot of more followers, people protected him. So the Pope really wasn't after him anymore. So at one point in the mid 1500s, this is what the map looks like of how many people follow certain faiths. So Roman Catholic in yellow, still pretty popular. And then here in the pink is Lutheran, where Lutheranism starts. So, true or false? Martin Luther thought that people achieve salvation from God through faith and works. True or false?